everybody, welcome to this wonderful reading. I'm Zoe Alex, welcome. So in this reading I'm going to provide you is that this is going to be for March 31st to April 5th of 2025. Now this is going to be a day of the week reading. Basically, I'm going to look forward to it because you guys will look forward to it, whatever it is. But you have to understand that this is going to be how brilliant it is in that participation. Basically, on how it's going to be, how it is in that way, and you think that everything seems to be fine, dandy, what have you. But there are things that you need to understand and how you can be, how you can be credited to your own things, to your own abilities, whatever it is. But there are things that you must understand where you have to believe on how it is in one way or another, and you think that, oh well, everything seems to be fine. But not necessarily, where you have to participate and do what you can to focus on that way, and you think that, okay, well, this is how significant it seems to be. It is. But the point being is that when you focus on your abilities from that way, you have to think, okay, well, this is how it is, how it's going to be, how it seems to be in that way. So you have to understand that this is just an opportunity to understand of how it's going to be in that wonderful setting, because you have to think about how you can impose of the situation, right? So you have to understand that in that way, and you think that, okay, well, everything seems to be fine and what have you. But this is just how participating it is. That's the way it kind of goes, right? So you have to understand that what's going on in that way, and you have to think about what's going on in that perspective of how it is, and this is how it seems to be. So you have to pay attention on how everything is one way or another, and you think that, okay, well, everything seems to be fine, but you have to be credited of your own feelings, your own wants, your own needs, your own participation. That's the way it goes, because you have to pay attention to it, right? So in that way, everything will be fine. But it's like, well, this is not going to do it. I'm not going to end this or whatever, right? You're not going to say, I can't do this anymore. So you have to pay attention on how everything is in that, logical explanation on how things are in that ability. That's how it seems to be. So in this oracle card that I'm going to read you is honesty. I can't always expect the truth from others, but I can expect it from myself. That's the way it goes, where you have your own honesty. When you have honesty, you have to be truthful about what you're going to be doing, what you're going to be answering, what you're going to be beyond, beyond and above on that point, right? That's how it seems to be, right? So you have to pay attention to it. You have to pay attention about being honesty. You have to pay attention to what's going on, and you have to accept on how it seems to be, and you have to understand that, right? So you have to believe, well, how you can do it in a wonderful setting on how it seems to be, right? You have to do what you can and do how everything is. So there is lots of ways to understand that in that priority, and that's how it seems to be, okay? So that's what it seems to be in that way. So I'm going to look at what's going on, and I'm going to look at what's going on in that way, and you have to understand what's happening, and this is the way it seems to be. So if you like this reading, please give a like, please give a comment, and enjoy. This is just what it seems to be in that way, and you think that everything seems to be fine and what have you. It's like, okay, this is how it is, and this is how it seems to be in that moment, and this is how experienced it is, right? This is the way it kind of concludes, and this is the way it is, and this is the way of how everything is in that way, and this is how it seems to be. So here we go. So look at this huge reading, by the way. Like, everything is all reversed except for the King of Cups and the Six of Pentacles is upright. So the King of Cups does represent support. You're getting support. Everyone's getting support. That's how it seems to be. The Six of Pentacles does represent kindness. Like, you're gonna have a kindness week of this. So this is how I'm going to do it lightly. do it about what's going on in this setting, because this is the way it seems to be in that way, and you think that everything seems to be fine, dandy, and what have you, but then it's like, well, this is how I can do it. This is how I can try to proceed in that way, right? So when you have your own way to participate, you have to pay attention on what's going on in this situation. So this is how it's going to be. This is going to be a wonderful reading. It's very wonderful. And in that note, you have to think that everything seems to be all great, and this is how it's going to be in that, how it is, right? So you have to believe on how everything is in that way. So I'm going to go from the Six of Pentacles, or no, I'm going to go from the King of Cups upright all the way to the Seven of Wands reversed. Then I'm going to go from the Six of Pentacles in the same direction. So let me clarify. So Page of Cups is upright, followed by the Seven of Swords reversed, followed by the Ten of Swords reversed, followed by the Five of Cups reversed, followed by the Sun card reversed. So basically, you're going to be in negativity in that way. You're going to be acting like you're in loyalty, whatever it is. And you think, well, this is going to be a backtrack of the situation, right? It's a rough draft, it's a rough copy, whatever it is, and you think that, well, this is not going to end well. It's not, because you need to understand that the way of how you can do it, the way of how you can master your own disguise, whatever it is, you have to pay attention to it. Whether things are going to go right or wrong or whatever it is, you have to pay attention to it. So if you're dealing with another Pisces, Cancer, Scorpio as water signs, as zodiac signs, pay attention to it. So that's how it seems to be. When you're in negativity, you are drawn to that negativity. You're drawn to it, right? So when you're in negativity, you're thinking, oh, well, this is not going to end well. It's not. Because when you're focused on negativity, you're focusing on negative emotions. You're focusing on why. Why that this is intense. Why is it, that's the way it goes, right? So you have to think about that, right? That's what it seems to be. So what's happening with the Six of Pentacles all the way to this Sun card that's reversed. So let's see, the Hierophant reversed, followed by the Nine of Pentacles reversed, or Nine of Pentacles upright, Five Wands is upright, the Four of Pentacles reversed, followed by the World reversed, followed by the Ten of Wands is upright, followed by the Chariot reversed, followed by the Nine of Cups is upright. So, everything is fulfilled, but then you have basically progress. Like, there's no progress yet, there's not. You're going to have basically chaos, that's the way it goes. You're feeling comfortable, that's the way it goes. The Ten of Wands does represent burdens. Like, there's lots of burdens, you're going to go up, that's the way it goes. The World reverse, there's going to be incompletion, that's the way it seems to be. So, things are not going as planned. Things are not going your way. You think that, oh, well, this is not going to end well. It's not. Because that's what it seems to be. So, you have to know by that way, and you have to think, well, this is just an opportunity of how it is, right? This is the way of how you can believe, and you have to do what you can and say, all right, well, I want to participate, but it's like, well, I don't want to, but that's the way it goes, right? So you have to see this. This is not like interference. This is not the ability from that. But you have to believe that everything has to be in that direction, right? So, when you're having a good day from Monday to Tuesday, fine. But you have to think about the Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and Saturday during that week, right? So you have to pay attention to it as long as it needs to. So let me figure out what's happening with this Page of Cups here to this Nine of Cups here. Wheel of Fortune is upright, followed with the Hermit is upright, followed with the Lovers is upright, followed with the Devil reverse, followed by the Hierophant is upright. So you want to have guidance, or you want to have your inner voice, or you're using your own guidance. You're having your own decisions. All right, that's the way it goes. The Hermit is upright where you're looking for a soulmate, or you're looking for solitude, whatever it is. The Wheel of Fortune is upright where you're having good luck on your side. That's the way it goes, because that's the way it seems to be, right? So you have to think that everything is all temporary, but it's like, well, it's not, right? That's the way it kind of concludes in that formula, in the way of how this is going to be experienced. So what's happening between when I look at these four reverse, these four upright cards, as in the Hierophant, the Lovers, the Hermit, and the Wheel of Fortune. That's the way it goes. But what's happening on the right side? So the Star is upright, followed by the Temperance is upright, followed by the Devil reversed, followed by the Empress is upright. So you're feeling like there's nourishment. You're basically having healing, and you're having inspiration. That's the way it kind of prepares about that situation. You think that, oh, well, I need to focus on this. I'm going to do it. That's the way it needs to be in that priority. You have to proceed with caution, or you have to do what you can. You have to make a double take, or whatever it is, right? That's what it seems to be, because in that note, in this own experience, you think, oh, well, this is going to be very fascinating. It is, but you have to look at it from a different way, a different perspective. That's the way it seems to be in this wonderful reading. So let me clarify. So beyond this point is that this is just the way it kind of ends up being. So let me figure out what the universe is saying here on the Monday and Tuesday of during this week. So I'm going to figure out what's happening from the Hermit card here. The Nine of Swords reversed, followed by the Two of Wands reversed, followed by the Queen of Cups reversed. So basically during this week you're having no trauma, no planning, no empathy. There's no two sides of a story here. Nothing. But let me clarify: the Nine of Swords, the Two of Wands, and the Queen of Cups. The King of Swords here, so there's no knowledge. The Hierophant reversed, so there's no guidance, I believe. The Knight of Swords reversed, there's no drama. But then the Four of Wands is upright, so there's going to be celebration. Yeah, so there's going to be celebration between a Monday and Tuesday in that situation. So pay attention to it. Pay attention about what's going on in this way of how it is in that note. What's happening between this Wheel of Fortune here? The Fool is upright, so there's going to be change coming up between Wednesday of that part, the way of how this is going to do. That's the way it goes in that the way of how this formula is of this whole entire situation. What's going on the right side, please? The Strength card is upright, followed by the Tower reversed, followed by the Hermit reversed, followed by the Judgment is upright. So you're going to take action. There's no solitude because you already have a soulmate. It could be that. The Tower reversed, there's no transformation. Everything's not changing. The Strength card represents Leo, but it does represent where you're going to have strength. That's the way it goes. Between the Hermit and the Tower, what's happening with that? Eight of Pentacles reversed, followed by the High Priestess reversed, followed by the Empress is upright. So there's going to be nourishment. Yes. Because when you have nourishment, you're gonna see how it's going to imply to you in that way. Because you think, okay, well, everything's gonna be all good. That's the way it goes. That's the way of how it's gonna be imposing of that situation. You think, oh, well, everything seems to be all great. Yes, it is. But how you can do it? How you can master that situation? So I'm gonna go one card for this Four of Wands here. The Moon reversed. Okay. What's happening with this Fool here? The Empress reversed, okay. What's happening with this Empress on the right side? The Magician reversed. So there's no skill, there's no nourishment, there's no misorientations. Alright. So that's like a good start. Alright. Let me clarify. Let me clarify the Moon, please. The Hangman reversed, followed with the Strength card reversed. So you're not gonna have any strength, you're not gonna have any restrictions because that's the way it goes. So you have to think, oh well, this is going to be very unacceptable, or whatever it is. When you have no strength, you have no strength, right? Because you have a low energy, or whatever it is. That's what it seems to be. That's why you need to focus on that ability from the right and wrong perspective. That's how it is. So you have to believe that, oh, well, everything seems to be great, or wild, or what have you. That's the way it goes. So you need to be like you're going to be in control, right? When you have in control, you pay attention to it. whether you feel like it or not, or whatever, right? That's the way it seems to be. What's happening with this Empress card? The Tower is upright, followed with the Justice reverse. So you're not taking action, right? You could be not telling the truth or whatever, but then when you have the Tower moment, everything changes. Everything is going to change. Like everything is transformation. That's the way it goes. So when you do that, you think, okay, how it is. But then again, about this Justice card, I'm going to clarify this. The level is reversed, so there's no decisions, but then the world is upright because there is completion. Yeah, because everything is completed, right? So you have to be informed about, okay, well, everything is going to complete, everything is going to be going that way. That's the way it needs to be. You focus on that. You focus on your rights. You focus on what's happening around that situation. That's the way it goes, right? You think, okay, well, everything seems to be fine, yes, but how you can do it, how you can do what you can to participate in how things are, right? That's the way it goes. What's happening with this Magician, please? The moon is upright, so there's going to be misrotations. The Magician is upright, so there's going to be a skill. What's between the moon and the Magician, please? The Hermit is upright, so you're going to try to find a soulmate or having some solitude during this week. Because that's the way it kind of informs that situation. So that's how it kind of, how it is. Between the Strength card and the Hangman, I'm going to clarify that. The Chart reverse, which means you have no progress. Yeah, so when you have no progress, you're not going to have that. That's the way it seems to be. So when you have no progress, nothing. But that's how it kind of concludes, right? That's the way it needs to be. So when you're thinking, oh, well, I have, basically I have progress, yes, it would be. But then when it's reversed, you have no progress, right? So you have to see what I mean. You have to participate on how everything is. That's the way it goes, right? That's how it seems to be, I guess. So you have to pay attention on this way of saying, all right, well, this is the way it goes, right? So that's what's going on. That's the way it seems to be of this whole entire situation, right? So you have to think about how it's going to imply of it. So, it does remain of how this is going to be participating, right? This is the way it needs to be. So I don't know what's going on here, but I'll do one card for each. So I hope you all like this video as well, okay? Hopefully it makes sense. And give it a like if you want, but still. Let's see. So let me figure out about this Chariot card on the left side. So between Monday and Tuesday during this week, I'm going to clarify with one card. The Emperor is upright, so you're going to have structure, alright? What's between this tower and this world for Wednesday in this situation? The Ten of Swords is upright, so there's going to be conclusions. Alright, between Thursday and Friday and Saturday of this Hermit card, the Six of Swords is upright, so there's going to be movement. Alright, so when you're dealing with things are going to be happening between Monday and Tuesday, between the structure card, I'm going to clarify this. So, what's happening? Five Pentacles upright, so there's insecurity. 6 Wands upright, there's achievement. Alright, so that's going to be prolonged with the situation in that dignity of how this is going to relate, of this participation of what you're going to be doing. So I understand about how this is going to be interesting between a Monday and Tuesday. Pay attention to it, whether if you're feeling insecurity, or when you're having achievement, or you're going to get an award, whatever it is. But you have to pay attention on what's going on around that situation. That's how it seems to be in the way of how this is. That's the way it's going to go. So between this Ten of Swords for Wednesday, I'm going to pay attention to this. So I'm going to clarify this, please. So the 2 wands is upright, so you're going to have planning. The Lord's reversed, so there's no decisions. No. So when you're planning on something, that's the way it goes, where you're planning, because that's the way it goes during that day on the Wednesday. What's happening between these lovers? The 10 Pentacles reversed, so there's no vision. The 8 wands reversed, so there's going to be no speed. No, because you are basically saying that you are basically feeling like when you have no speed on Wednesday, you're feeling like you're going to have basically, have low energy, right? So when you have low energy, you're saying, oh, well, this is going to be very how it is, right? So you're trying to pay attention on how you're going to do it in that wonderful feeling, right? Because everything is going to be in that structure, that ability, that's the way it's going to be in that format, right? That's the way it kind of concludes. So that's how it is. What's happening on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday between the 6 of Swords, please? The Strength card is upright, so there'll be bravery. Queen Wands is upright, there's charisma. That's the way it goes in that way. So that's the way it kind of happens in that in this good formula of this whole entire way of this situation. So between this bravery and this charisma, what's happening? The 4 of Wands reversed, so there's no celebration. The 3 Pentacles reversed, there's no excitement. But the Hangman is upright, so there's going to be stillness, but there's going to be restrictions as well. So you could be restricted about how it's going to be in that way, and you think that everything seems to be fine. So I can understand that in the way of how this is going to be. So now let me see this. So between in the middle and the left, I'm going to clarify it. Between the middle and the right, I'm going to clarify that. Alright? So let me start from the middle, from the Wednesday, Tuesday, and Monday, and then from Wednesday towards Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Okay? So this is how it's going to be. So between Wednesday in the middle, all the way to between the 6 of Wands and the 5 Pentacles on the Monday and Tuesday. So the 7 of Swords is upright, so you're feeling deceit. 9 Cups is upright, there's fulfillment. 5 Wands reversed, there's no chaos. Page 1 is upright, there's invention. 2 Cups reversed, there's no relationships. Judgment reversed, there's no action. King of Cups is upright, you're going to have support. That's the way it goes, where you're feeling deceit on the Wednesday, but then you're feeling like you're going to have support on the Monday. During that time, you're going to feel like you're going to have invention. You're going to feel like you're going to, you do what you can. You have no relationships or friendships, whatever it is. But then there was something that wasn't very enticing of the situation. You think, oh, well, this is not going to be that participation. This is not going to be that way of how it's going to be, right? So you have to pay attention on what's going on in that situation, because you have to be simple of how you can do it in that variety of how you can do it in that way. So that's how it's going to be, okay? That's what the universe is saying. Now between the Wednesday and Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, between on the right side, let me clarify. So King of Pentacles reversed, there's no stability. 10 Pentacles upright, there's going to be wealth. Page of Pentacles upright, there's prospects. Ace of Pentacles reversed will be no growth. The 9 of Swords reversed, there's no trauma. The Knight of Wands reversed, there's no maturity. The Hierophant reversed, there's no guidance. But the Queen of Wands is upright, there's stability. Yeah, that's the way it goes, right? So when you're feeling like everything seems to be all around you, or you're thinking like, oh, well, this is not going to, how it is, you have to think to yourself, it's like, well, this is just the way it happens. This is the way it kind of concludes. This is the way of how you can participate on how it is, right? So you have to do what you can. So you have to focus on what you're going to be doing in that way, right? So you have to focus on how you can do it in that position, and you think, okay, well, this is going to be fine, dandy, what have you, because this is the way of how it's going to conclude. So during this week, let's see what's happening for who's kind of doing this in this way. So who's on the left, who's in the middle, who's on the right. So this is how it's going to be end up being at. Right, so who's on the left is balance. Arjuna Zadkiel is the need for balance and moderation, cooperation, and compromise. Wait for perfect timing. You know, that's the way it goes, where you can cooperate, compromise, you know, you do what you can to focus about having your own balance during this week, because that's the way how it kind of concludes in that way. So you have to do what you can and say, alright, well, this is how I can do it, how I can be modernized, whatever it is, but then you have to pay attention to it. Pay attention about your skill set. Pay attention about what's going on around you in that situation, and you have to do what you can. So if you compromise, or if you be respectful, or you do what you can, you focus on that between a Monday and Tuesday of that situation. Okay? What's happening on a Wednesday in the middle? The Knight of Water. Emotional, romantic, enthusiastic, contemplative, falling in love, or wedding proposals. The need to balance emotions and an invitation to a social event. Yeah, so basically you could be balancing emotions where you're feeling happy or sad or angry or whatever it is, but then you're feeling like you're going to be having anxious or whatever you're feeling like. So it could be that, but you could be focusing on Pisces, Cancer, or Scorpio as another water sign, as a zodiac sign. So you have to pay attention to it in that way of how this is going to be focusing on that. Okay. And what's happening on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday on the left side, or on the right side? I mean, the Three of Air. Great sadness. Take time to heal. The need to forgive yourself or others. Yeah. So you're going to basically take a step back on how you're feeling, because that's the way of how it is, unnecessary of how it is, but then you have to think, okay, well, I'm not going to feel emotional or whatever it is. So you have to pay attention on how you can focus on that, where things that how to be the way of how it is, and you think, okay, well, this is going to be very good, because you do what you can, right? You have to be told what you're doing, but then you have to focus on that, right? So you have to do that. So you could be dealing with another Gemini, Libra, Aquarius as air signs, as zodiac signs, and you pay attention to it, okay? And last but not least, because you're going to hear my beautiful, beautiful voice and stuff, this is how it's going to be in that way. So, you know, the way of how this is going to end up being in this participation that I'm going to tell you all, that this is going to be how it is in that way, because you have to focus on your own, you know, how your own illustration is, right? So it's like how everything is going to be in that way. So that's how it is in that moment, right? So this is how it's going to be in that way. So let me see. Let's see what's going on, eh? So I'm going to read you one oracle card, and you're going to see my beautiful voice. I'm going to say is, I am basically drinking my my coffee here because it's very good, right? And I add a little bit of salt to it, so that's how it's going to be. Alright, so I'm going to read you number 17, Ghost Lands. So this is going to be very interesting indeed. Right, so this is going to be very good. Now, it says on how it's going to be. This is going to be very interesting indeed. Alright, so it says Ghostlands. You can learn from the past and imagine a beautiful future, but you must live in the here and now. Alright, so here we go. Upright, it says. Whenever you set your sights too far ahead, you run the risk of losing your footing. For rarely do the present and future match up exactly on the enchanted map that is your life story. The future has no substance right now. It is a place that has no grounding as of yet. You can't live there yet. Yet you can take measured steps toward a goal or dream. These steps are important now. The same goes for nostalgia. You can look into the past wistfully and remember beautiful moments or revisit lessons learned. However, you can't live there, nor you can go back and change what was. Yesterday is gone forever. Live fully in the present. The now is the most powerful place to put your attention. Its magic reaches out in every direction, further than the heart and soul can see. So it means that you do what you can, you do what you best because you're focusing on the present, here and now, the way of how this is, because in that priority of how it's going to be, you have to focus on how things are, how you can master your own desires and the way of how you're feeling, because the way of how this is, the way of how you can participate or do what you can, you focus on what's happening in that way, you focus on how it's going to be in that way, in that participation, that's what it's going to be, that's what it's going to be, how it is. So you have to focus on how it is in one way or another. You focus on how it is because you have to focus on the way it seems to be, right? So before I let you go, try to pay attention about what's happening in that situation. Try to pay attention about what's going on in that circumstance. That's the way it seems to be. That's why it's going to be, how it's going to be unfold. That's the way it goes. So you have to think about how it's going to be, unfolded or whatever it is, and you have to focus on that. Focus on your dignity. Focus on how you're feeling wanted or needed or whatever it is. You have to focus on that. Focus about balancing your emotions. Focusing about what's happening around you in that situation. So you do what you can. You have to focus on that. And when you do, you do exactly what you're told to do, right? That's what it's going to be, right? But in that reference, in the way of how this is, you have to do exactly how it is. You have to participate. You do have to follow the rules. You do what you can, but you have to think about that. Like less is more, in that situation. So you do what you're supposed to be doing, and this is how it is. So this is going to be a fabulous week for you all. I hope you all like it. I hope you all desire about this, because this is just how this wonderful reading is, but you have to do that, right? So that's how it's going to be. But this is the way it goes. This is the way it happens. This is the way it's going to be, and that's how it is. So I hope you all like this video. Please give it a like. Please give it a comment and enjoy. And I will see you next time. And this is the way it seems to be. And thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. And see you next time. Thank you. Bye for now. Really. And bye.